Chapter 1001. As she had guessed. It might not be right to think in this way. However, Xiao Dongliang was very conscious that the Zai family was much more well-to-do than the Qiao family. He was also worried that he would affect the relationship between Xiao Nan and Zai Sheng. Xiao Dongliang had heard of what happened between Zai Hua and Wei Dai. His daughter did not come from a well-to-do family as well. Xiao Dongliang would not crack wise, saying that even though Wei Dai did not have a good family background, it was fine as long as he was true to Zai Hua. Xiao Dongliang did not express his opinion on this matter. It was up to the Zai family to decide if they should break up. However, Xiao Dongliang did not expect that his daughter played such an important role in this matter. Zai Hua refused to listen to anyone except for his daughter. Thankfully for that, otherwise, even if Zai Hua had a good family background and was the only daughter in the Zai family, once she married such a man, her life would be ruined. If she married Wei Dai, she would have a terrible life ahead. "Dad, how is it?" Qiao Nan, who was worried sick, calmed down slightly upon seeing her father. Judging from her father's expression, Qiao Nan was certain that Zai Hua had yet to do anything rash to Wei Dai. Xiao Dongliang's expression changed. He pulled his daughter with him into the house while he motioned for others to close the door, lest the onlookers see what was going on inside. He lowered his voice and said to Qiao Nan, "Zai Sheng has put aside Zai Hua's gun. Fortunately, he put it aside in time. Otherwise, Wei Dai would be lying on the floor now." Qiao Nan turned ashen. Sure enough, Sister Zai Hua was seriously thinking of getting rid of Wei Dai, that scumbag. What exactly happened? Why was Sister Zai Hua so furious that she disregarded that she was a soldier, took her gun, and left the camp with the single thought of killing Wei Dai? "Didn't you know?" Xiao Dongliang was surprised. He heard that Nan Nan was the first person to find out something amiss about Wei Dai. Xiao Nan was at a loss for words. "I felt that there's something amiss about him, so I asked Brother Zai to investigate him." "Is there really something wrong between Wei Wei and Wei Dai?" In the Wei family, there were the two elders, their son, Wei Dai, and their adopted daughter. The adopted daughter had a son that was born out of wedlock. Wei Dai did not mind and brought his nephew with him and asked his girlfriend to find a good school for him and to make sure that he grew up into a useful person. It was said that children would be small-minded after they had their own family. Wei Dai was not a giving and generous man. On the contrary, he was very selfish. Someone so selfish would not be willing to raise someone else's son and give him the best of everything. It was true that Qiao Nan had a lot of Wei Wei's and Wei Dai's photos. However, even if Qiao Nan had her doubts, after failing to spot any similarities between Wei Wei and Wei Dai, she dared not tell anyone of her suspicions. "SSSS. You knew about it indeed." Xiao Dongliang sucked in his breath, amazed at his daughter's intelligence. "That child does not resemble Wei Dai. How did you find out?" Qiao Nan smiled reluctantly. "The Wei family is not complicated and the family is not big. Moreover, since there is something wrong with Wei Dai's personality, I made a bold guess. Wei Wei was not Wei Dai's nephew but his son. Since Wei Dai's so-called sister was adopted, she was not related to Wei Dai at all." When Qiao Nan heard that the Wei family adopted a daughter when the country was going through such a tumultuous time, she could not help but think of the idea of a child bride. But they were in modern society, not ancient times. The idea of a child bride seemed to be a thing of the past and would only be seen in books. Therefore, even though Qiao Nan had thought of such a possibility, she had never shared her thoughts with anyone in the Zai family, including Zai Sheng. She might dislike Wei Dai, but she would not speak badly of him. Just because of this, Xiao Dongliang refused to believe. Qiao Nan sighed. "Wei Wei may not resemble Wei Dai, but after careful observation, I notice that when Wei Wei smiles, he looks very much like Wei Dai." That was purely her gut feeling. Whenever she had time, she would stare at the photos that Zai Hua sent her. It was through this that she came to this realization. Now that it had been determined that Wei Wei was the son of Wei De, Xiao Nan felt that Wei De was indeed daring. Clearly, he wanted to marry Sister Zihua, yet he dared to bring the son that he had with another woman around, and he even wanted Sister Zihua to educate him. Wei De was too much. Xiao Nan felt a sharp pain in her heart. It was no wonder that Sister Zihua was full of hatred and was bent on killing Wei De. If not for her, would Sister Zihua have married Wei De and listened to what he said, putting all her effort and attention on educating Wei Wei, her stepson? The more Xiao Nan thought about it, the more flustered she was. In her previous life, she was not on close terms with the Zai family. It was her mother who would bring up Zai Shang occasionally, saying that he was very capable and lived in the same quad as them. He followed his father's footsteps and brought the Zai family to greater heights. If not for her mother, she would not have known that Zai Shang had been promoted to chief. Xiao Nan was not clear of Zai Shang's situation in the previous life. Even though she was in her late 30s when she passed away in the previous life, she had no idea what happened between Zihua and Wei De. What Xiao Nan was most concerned about was that Wei De might have deceived everyone in the Zai family and married Sister Zihua, becoming the Zai family's son-in-law. Xiao Nan was in a terrible mood at the thought of this. Apart from Sister Zihua, she also had the impulse of killing Wei De. Chen Jun might have betrayed her in the previous life, but Xiao Nan felt that Wei De was much worse than him. He killed by subtle means. Sister Zihua. As soon as she entered the room, Xiao Nan saw that two persons were in a confrontation. Zihua's eyes had turned so red that she might shed red tears. Xiao Nan's heart ached for her. Xiao Nan hurried forward without another word. She hugged Zihua tightly, patting her back lightly. Sister Zihua, it is okay. Everything will pass. Don't be angry. Don't be upset. Don't be hard on yourself. It is not worth it. Xiao Nan spoke to Zihua in a soft, gentle, and reassuring voice. She was like a mother who was coaxing her child to sleep, singing a lullaby to the child. Xiao Nan, who hugged Zihua tightly, could feel that Zihua was all tensed up. Chapter 1002 Life was too good. Zihua felt stiff all over. Hate and despair emanated from within her. Without the need to communicate through any word or action, Xiao Nan could empathize very well with her. Sister Zihua, you still have mom and dad. You still have grandpa, brother Zai, and us so many kins. It's not worth it. Our hearts will ache if you do this. Perhaps Xiao Nan's last sentence brought out Zihua's sanity that had earlier been completely deceived by resentment and hate. The tears in Zihua's eyes dropped down one by one. 1, 2, and 3. Heartache? Yes. Hadn't she been constantly longing and searching for someone whose heart would truly ache for her? Her mother only had her father in her heart. Same as her grandfather, Zai Shang had the whole Zai family in his heart. Xiao Nan had also gone in. She was the only one who did not have someone that truly doted on and protected her. When she found Wei De, she believed that she had found her Mr. Right. However, the truth of the matter. Xiao Nan, Wei Wei is his child, his biological son. He lied to me. He is shameless. When she thought of the fact that Wei Wei's age was older than the duration that she and Wei De dated, Zihua felt despaired. The so-called true love and doting was a lie right from the beginning. Wei De had never been truthful or genuine to her before. Once Zihua cried, Xiao Nan and the Zai family felt more at ease. They were most worried that Zihua would continue to keep her anger all to herself and then viciously want to take Wei De's life. After encountering such a worrisome matter, Zihua's crying was also considered an avenue for her frustration. All this while, Zai Shang dared not release his hands that were holding on to Zihua. In the past, when the siblings exchanged blows with each other, Zihua had never won against Zai Shang before. However, it was different today. Zihua was enraged. Zai Shang also had to show her some mercy. Zihua was behaving like a bull that had seen a red cloth. As such, Zai Shang almost failed to hold her back. It was true that Zai Hua's gun had been snatched away by Zai Sheng and passed to someone else to take care of. However, under Zai Hua's fury, even a grown-up man like Wei De could not endure her iron fist punches. He would definitely be beaten to death alive by Zai Hua. Besides Zai Sheng, Zai Yayawai also had to intervene to restrain Zai Hua to prevent her from beating Wei De to death. There was only Zai Hua, yet both her biological brother and father had to intervene to stop her. One could just imagine how much hate Zai Hua felt to make her strength become so great. Zai Sheng and Zai Yayawai managed to hold her back, while Miao Jing was wiping her tears by the side. Given this, Xiao Nan then released her hands that were earlier hugging Zai Hua. Sister Zai Hua, fortunately, you are not my daughter. You encountered such a matter. Brother Zai and Dad tried ways and means to stop you from making mistakes. Mom's heart aches so much that she has been crying non-stop, feeling aggrieved for you. Guess, when Brother Zai and I have a daughter in the future and she encounters a similar matter, what will I do? Unlike the gentleness that consoled Zai Hua earlier, Xiao Nan's tone, that was neither loud nor soft, sounded a little sharp. Xiao Nan glanced coldly at Wei De, who had been given a round of beating by Zai Hua. He was still slumping on the floor with blood on the corner of his mouth. She felt her eyes hurt badly. After she turned back, she certainly had to find a way to cleanse her eyes. Zai Sheng did not quite like Xiao Nan's analogy. The daughter of Zai Sheng had to be a pampered darling. Whoever dared to kidnap his daughter, Zai Sheng would definitely break his limbs so that he would not have any chance to appear in front of his daughter again, let alone any scum who dared to lie to her. Zai Sheng narrowed his eyes and glared at Wei De harshly. Wei De was so terrified that he shivered. Of course, Zai Sheng and Zai Yayawai would not let Zai Hua commit any wrongdoing by beating Wei De to death. However, it was impossible for them to let Wei De go so easily. Initially, when Zai Hua punched and kicked Wei De, the father and son were pretending to stop her. After confirming that the injuries on Wei De's bodies would certainly make him suffer, the father and son pair then seriously pulled Zai Hua away from Wei De, this scum. Zai Hua's voice was low and hoarse. Do you mean that I am to be blamed for this? If you are not to be blamed, then who is? Xiao Nan was angry. You are the one who is not sharp at judging people. You were blind to take a liking to such a thing. You were even fooled around by the other party and nearly raised a son for someone. We are one family. After we see this nonsensical thing, none of us like him. We persuaded you to open your eyes so that you wouldn't be taken in and would break up quickly. Did you listen? He is evil. But what about you? You were taken in by his sweet words again and again. You almost fell out with your closest kin. Am I too much to say that you are stupid? You have so much hate in your heart now that you want to kill him. You will feel great and happy doing so. When you are in jail, the reputation of the Zai family will be ruined and they will become a joke in the social circle. Did you spare a thought for the Zai family? You are not taking revenge. You are clearly doing this to aggrieve your own kin and gladden your enemy. Nan Nan. Xiao Dongliang was stunned. Didn't Nan Nan come back to persuade someone? Why was she giving a scolding? Xiao Dongliang was feeling a little guilty. This was also the first time that he witnessed the tough side of his younger daughter, who was normally refined and quiet. He was afraid that this side of Xiao Nan would shock the Zai family or make the Zai family develop negative opinions of her. Xiao Dongliang could only remind Xiao Nan not to go overboard. Regarding Wei De's matter, Zai Hua was certainly quite foolish, but that was the Zai family's matter. Xiao Nan was not in the position to speak about this. She had not even been married into the Zai family. This was an arduous but thankless matter. Xiao Nan replied to Xiao Dongliang, Dad, I know what you mean. I consider myself restrained in my words to Sister Zai Hua. Because I address her as my sister, I have to be more objective and frank. Not to mention my daughter, if she were my biological sister, no matter how much older she was, I would also bash her up before I said anything. Her life has been so good that she is flying to the sky. She is looking for trouble as she has nothing better to do. She even attracted such a good-for-nothing back. She is asking for a beating. It was so embarrassing and shameful for Qiao Zijin to compete with her biological sister for man. Nevertheless, who could deny that Chen Jun had a good family background? Most people would perceive Chen Jun as a good son-in-law. The Qiao family had good taste and was so blessed and capable to be able to find such a son-in-law. Both of them were scum. Qiao Zijin married a scum. The Qiao family received 10 over baskets of good words. When one turned around and looked at Zai Hua, damn, she had caused the Zai family to become a huge laughingstock. In comparison, Zai Hua did not even have Qiao Zijin's intelligence and capability. Unfortunately, Qiao Nan could not talk about what happened in her previous life. Otherwise, she would definitely tell Zai Hua clearly that she did not need to worry about food and daily necessities as she was the Zai family's daughter. As long as she was not too muddle-headed, she could secure a great future that was bright and boundless. If Zai Hua was like Qiao Zijin, whose standard of living would reduce tremendously and social status would downgrade greatly if she were to slack in devising ploys, Zai Hua would only spend all her time pondering over how to become more successful. Zai Hua would never take a second look at a man like Wei De then. Chapter 1003 Do you want him dead? As such, it was not wrong at all for Qiao Nan to say that Zai Hua's life had been too good and she was asking for trouble. She is right. Old Master Zai, who had also rushed back to the house of the Zai family, heard the criticisms from his granddaughter-in-law of his granddaughter. He agreed totally as he had expected better from Zai Hua. You're asking for trouble. I really regret it. When you were a child, I doted on you too much. I'd been overly protective of you. You have become so spoiled. Although it is not common to subscribe to the saying spare the rod and spoil the child now, I should not have raised you in that way. You can't differentiate what is right and wrong. Dad. Zai Yaowai was very surprised that old Master Zai could come back at this time. Miao Jing wiped away her years as she also greeted, Dad. Grandpa. This time, Zai Sheng finally dared to release his hand that was earlier holding on to that of Zai Hua. In both Zai Sheng and Zai Hua's hearts, the regard and trust for the old master had never been low. To bring bad things upon oneself as a result of one's bad character. If there were no problems with your personal conduct, would he target you? Would he treat you like a child and toy with you? Old Master Zai was infuriated. When his wife was alive, she wanted a daughter very badly. However, at that time, there was chaos in the country. He was killing enemies on the battlefield and his wife was a nurse in the rear logistics team. In their entire lives, during their most passionate moments when they were young, the time that the couple could sleep in the same bed could almost be counted with one hand. As such, the elderly couple only had one son, Zai Yaowai, although other families had many children. When grandmother Zai was alive, she wanted a daughter very much. However, when the country was peaceful, the couple was already old. They had also accumulated many lingering illnesses from wartime. As such, they could only imagine how it was like having a daughter. Thereafter, when Zai Hua was born, grandmother Zai was overjoyed. So as to speak, grandmother Zai was smiling when she left the world because of Zai Hua's birth. Due to grandmother Zai's wish, old Master Zai, a tough and burly man who did not even know how to raise a man, started to raise his little granddaughter. He was not exaggerating when he said that he was afraid that he would drop her when he held her, and when he put her in his mouth, she would melt. He had always felt that his granddaughter was a seedling of his family. Given her ancestry roots, her character would not go astray no matter how much he pampered her. Who would have thought that when she was almost 30 years old, his granddaughter would slap his face so hard and umpteen times? Zai Hua always felt that she was the one who suffered the most in this matter. She hated to the core Wei De's lies. She heartlessly felt that the whole world had abandoned her. Now, first, it was Qiao Nan. Next, it was old Master Zai. The only two people whom she would listen to had continuously bombarded her. Zihua felt so upset that she wanted to die. I have already become like this. You are not consoling me and helping me vent my anger. Instead, you are chiding me. Do you hate me so much? Old Master Zai's expression changed greatly as he was upset by Zihua's inability to appreciate kindness. He was so furious that he was catching his breath. Old Master, why are you so agitated? She has a biological father that's older than her. She has me who is younger. Even if she has gone astray, we can lead her back to the correct path. Zai Sheng furrowed his brows as he held Old Master Zai to a seat. Earlier on, Zai Sheng's heart ached for Zihua as she had been taken in by someone like Wei Dai. Now, when he saw Old Master Zai's face turning as white as a sheet, just as Qiao Nan said earlier, Zai Sheng had some urge to give Zihua a beating. Qiao Nan's tiny lips were pursed tightly. Auntie, can I trouble you to bring us a cup of water? Sure. The auntie, who had been scared out of her wits, had been hiding by the side. She dared not be involved in such ugly family affairs. When she heard Qiao Nan's request for a cup of tea, she dared not shirk the duty. This was because she knew very well that Qiao Nan would become the female head of the family in the future. Furthermore, once the old master appeared, he was on Qiao Nan's side. All the authoritative figures from the first to the third generation of the Zai family were on Qiao Nan's side. The auntie did not underestimate Qiao Nan just because she was Zai Sheng's fiancée. On the contrary, she was very careful to complete the task that Qiao Nan had given to her. She was not sloppy at all. After the auntie prepared the drink, she cleverly placed them in front of the old master. Besides him, everyone, please sit down. It's too tiring to stand. Qiao Nan, who had spent a long time traveling today, only felt that her whole body was falling apart. She sat down first. Of course, Qiao Dongliang sat beside Qiao Nan. Zai Sheng and Zai Yayawai thus sat at the left and right side of Zihua, lest Zihua become agitated again and do anything foolish. Miao Jing sat down beside Qiao Nan quietly. The hymn from Qiao Nan's mouth, Wei Dai, was still slumped on the floor, pretending to be dead. He was terrified, uneasy, and shocked. Wei Dai did not expect that his relationship with Wei Wei was still exposed despite the fact that platoon leader Zhang was forced to leave the army before him. This matter even caused Zihua to explode in anger. All this while, Wei Dai was very confident of his relationship with Zihua. He felt that it was impossible for Zihua to leave him as he had her in his clutches and was at his beck and call. This kind of self-deceiving confidence disappeared completely along with the exposure of Wei Wei's origins. Wei Dai was terrified that Zihua would break up with him and ignore him forever because of Wei Wei. How was he going to save the relationship then? If he were to tell Zihua now that he was willing to send Wei Wei back to his hometown, not see Wei Wei ever again and would not acknowledge his relationship with Wei Wei, would Zihua forgive him? At this moment, Wei Dai dared not play mind games with Zihua anymore. As long as Zihua made her request, Wei Dai would agree at once even if she asked him not to acknowledge Wei Wei henceforth or to sever all ties with his family in his hometown. At this point in time, Wei Dai hated himself most for relenting and listening to his mother's nagging. He not only brought Wei Wei to Pingcheng but also wanted Zihua to help him raise and nurture Wei Wei so that Wei Wei could follow the footsteps of other children in the city. If Wei Wei did not appear, who would suspect this matter that happened in his hometown? After all, according to his personal profile, he was single. Even if they used the computer to check his information, he was also single. Wei Dai had mustered enough courage. He wanted to admit his wrongdoing to Zihua and ask for her forgiveness. Tears welled up in Zihua's eyes. She lifted a cup and smashed it at Wei Dai's face. If you don't want to die, it's best that you shut up. At this moment, Wei Dai's voice was something that Zihua did not wish to hear most. When she heard Wei Dai speak, she turned into a mad dog that was crazy and flaring. When she saw Zihua behave like that, Qiao Nan gave a long sigh. Zihua's lips trembled at the sadness and pain in this sigh. Tears welled up in her eyes again. There was no choice. Xiaonan had experienced before the embarrassment and pain that Zihua was going through today. Although Xiaonan only gave a gentle sigh without saying a word, it could also trigger such emotions from Zihua. Sister Hua, do you want him dead? Weida's eyes turned stiff. He glared at Xiaonan with shock and anger. He was furious that Xiaonan was so long-winded at this moment. She even said such malicious things. Chapter 1004. She was too blind in the paw. Right from the beginning, he disliked Xiaonan. There were so many obstacles between him and Hua, all because of Xiaonan's evil doing. In particular, later on, Hua was already ignoring him. If someone were to ask Weida who he hated most during the period of his relationship with Zihua, his answer would undoubtedly be Xiaonan. This was because he and Xiaonan had been in similar circumstances. Their family backgrounds were incompatible with the Zai family. On what grounds could Xiaonan succeed when the Zai family refused to acknowledge his existence all this while? He had pleaded with Xiaonan a few times for her help, but she rejected him flatly without even considering or giving him any face. Eventually, Xiaonan cunningly caused Hua to break up with him. Hua declined to meet up with him and contact him. Even after he persisted and wrote to her for half a year, Hua did not write back to him. All the statuses of the Zai family members were above that of Weida. Weida's ploy did not work, but he dared not hate them. Of course, he had to vent it all on Xiaonan. In the face of Weida's malicious stare, Xiaonan gave a mocking laugh. She then watched as her father, out of anger, gave Weida a hard kick and worsened the latter's injuries. Sister Zihua, don't ever forget that you're a soldier. Even if you are part of the Zai family, in the eyes of the law, you don't have special rights. Moreover, in my opinion, it is meaningless to kill him. One won't have any feelings after one dies. He won't suffer. He won't be tortured. Damn, he will be relieved. Xiaonan closed her eyes. She thought back about the outcome of Chen Jun and Xiao Zijin's relationship. Her voice started to turn cold. You should understand now. Weida is together with you not because of love. It does not have anything to do with that. Weida is an ambitious person. He has many wants and only you can give it to him. Therefore, he pesters you and refuses to let go. Since you can make him successful, of course, you can also take back all that you have given him. Being alive is more terrible than being dead. Chen Jun could not resist Xiao Zijin's temptation and secretly had a child with her. He betrayed her. No, right from the start until the end, Chen Jun had never been true to her. He dated her because of unspeakable and ulterior motives. In the end, it did not end well for Chen Jun. When she was 40 years old, the Chen family was considered one of the prominent and powerful families in Pingcheng. Unfortunately, despite the status of the Chen family, Xiao Zijin actually dared to cheat on Chen Jun. The whole world knew about this matter. At that time, the Chen family, especially Chen Jun, had become a huge joke. All those acquaintances of Chen Jun who had previously been trampled by him looked at him differently just because of this matter. The Chen family had taken great pains to attain such a high status. They wanted to be respected and admired by others. Unfortunately, they made the mistake of accepting Xiao Zijin into the family. They could not even retain their basic dignity and reputation thereafter. All their past efforts went down the drain. To Chen Jun, nothing was more unbearable than the derisory glances of others. What was more painful than losing something that one had finally achieved after working hard for a long time? It was as if they had risen to heaven from hell only to fall into hell from heaven. Given the situation of Chen Jun, he had been battered so badly that he even returned to look for her with the intention to reconcile, let alone Weida's situation. Xiaonan was too experienced in this. She had a much better understanding of the situation than Zihua. Having understood what Xiaonan meant, Zihua gritted her teeth as she grabbed the phone and called her childhood friend. Hello, it's me. Yes, I am back in Pingcheng. All right, Don't ask me about anything. In short, Wada and I are over. I don't want Wada to do well. Help me inform the rest. After dating Wada for such a long time, how could Zihua possibly not know what kind of person Wada was? In the past, she naively believed that Wada's motivation for success was all because of her. Now, she had completely understood. Wada had been working so hard for himself. He wanted to be part of the upper social class, he wanted power, he wanted money. Xiao Nan was right. She would make Wada fall the same way that she made him rise. The peak of success that Wada would never be able to achieve in his entire life, Zihua could easily destroy all of it with just one phone call. Hua, listen to my explanation. I have my difficulties. I didn't tell you anything about this because I was terrified of losing you. I am already of this age. You should understand me. I just think that I have a responsibility toward Wei Wei. That's why If you don't like it, fine. I will send Wei Wei back and won't meet him ever again. You called your childhood friend as you wish to destroy my company and make me lose everything. It's okay. I am not angry. No matter what, I am the one who didn't do enough. I have disappointed you. To me, nothing is more important than you. It was not an issue to lose the company. As long as Zihua was still his girlfriend and he could reconcile with her, he would only gain more than what he had lost now. Wada had always been very clear about this important premise. With Zihua, he would have a future where the sky was the limit. Even if he had lost everything that he had in his hands now, after some time, he would be able to retrieve them. If he lost Zihua, Wada felt appalled as he remembered the years of his bitter struggles in the army. There was never a day where he could succeed. He was only waiting for the day of his retirement. At the thought of this, Wada broke out in cold sweat. In the past, he loved the army and wanted power. Now, it was impossible to return to the army anymore. It was also very good to rely on Zihua and hold on tightly to money. If Zihua was gone, he would have neither power nor money. He would not be able to set foot in Pingcheng again. In that case, his hard work and persistence over the years would become a huge joke. He was used to the debauchery in Pingcheng. He was used to a different kind of life. Wada was truly terrified of returning to the countryside to be a farmer. Even when he was doing business, Wada was not down to earth. He had been relying on the power of Zihua and the Zai family to get to the top. Once he lost Zihua, this powerful one, Wada might not even be willing to take on a job seriously and earn a meager salary, let alone doing business. After all, he had once led a life of a millionaire with his own company and dozens of employees. The more he thought about it, the more fearful Wada felt. He was so scared that he could not wait to write off Wada's existence in order to appease Zihua. Wada, who was in his early 30s, loved children, especially son. As there had not been any progress at the Zai family's end for so long, Wei Wei naturally became his darling. At this moment, Wei Wei had become the stumbling block of Wada's ambitions. As such, the first thing that Wada thought of was how to get Wei Wei out of the way. Scram! Initially, Zihua did not think that she would feel better by doing this. Nevertheless, when she saw the fear and horror in Wada's eyes, she felt instant pleasure. Thereafter, she was surrounded by surging feelings of hate and regret. Chapter 1005 He may not be my son. Xiao Nan was right. Wada's feelings toward her were not true. Wada's target was the Zai family that she came from and the benefits that she, the daughter of the Zai family, could give him. He was such a person. How did she become so blind to take a fancy to him in the past? Hua, I know that I have made you upset. Tell me. No matter what you say, I will agree to them as long as you can forgive me. Hua, I can't do without you. Wada was full of regrets. Hua, actually, you also know that I have been in the army for such a long time. It has been a few years. There is limited time for me to go home. Wei Wei may not really be my son. I am obliging as they are my family. I was thinking. Whether Wei Wei is my son or nephew, it is fine for me to support and raise a child if I have the capability to do so. Hua Hua, please don't misunderstand me. Right, Wei Wei might not definitely be his son. Many years ago, he and she only slept once after the wedding banquet in the hometown. The next morning, he returned to the army camp. Some time later, his mother contacted him and told him that she was pregnant. Eventually, she even gave birth to a son for him. He only slept with her once. How could she possibly have conceived then? Hua Hua, how could you not understand my love and feelings for you? If not, my reputation won't sound good. If I have not been too soft-hearted and taken on this muddled debt, Wei Wei would not even have a chance to grow up. He would have been drowned by the saliva of the people in my hometown. After all, 2 lives were at stake. Hua Hua, we are both soldiers. You will understand me, right? Weida had been explaining himself. He did not know that the more he talked, the more he made mistakes, and the less he talked, the less he would make mistakes. Such an explanation did not soften Zihua's heart. It would only make Zihua hate him all the more. I've seen shameless people, but I've never seen anyone as shameless as you. I really suspect if I have been blinded by a ghost. Zihua cried. Her cries were extremely miserable and loud. She was crying not because of the relationship between her and Weide. It was purely for her stupidity and blindness in the past. No wonder Qiao Nan said that I'm lucky that I am not her daughter. Otherwise, she would bash me up first due to this matter. Having said that, Zihua turned merciless. She slapped herself twice on the face with all her might. The deafening sound of the slaps shocked Zai Yawai and Zai Sheng. The father and son pair quickly and respectively held on to Zihua's left and right hand tightly. Zihua was really feeling hateful. She hated herself for taking a fancy to such a man. Earlier on, she had wholeheartedly wanted to marry Weide. Her heart ached for Weide as he was not young anymore and also childless. Moreover, Mother Wei was old and could not fulfill her only wish of having a grandchild. She cared so much for the Wei family, but Weide did not care about her and the Zai family. She was a good-for-nothing, yet she flared up and had conflicts with her own family. She had angered her family. As she thought of it, Zihua's blood pressure increased and her face swelled and turned red. Sister Zihua, take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Come on. Slowly. Take a long and deep breath. Zihua's face was so red that it was turning purplish. Qiao Nan was terrified. She jumped and quickly patted Zihua's chest. Hua Hua, don't behave like this. My heart aches for you. Don't make things difficult for yourself. How will you like me to change? I will listen to everything that you say. Weida was also shocked. The body constitution of a soldier should be better than the average person. However, they were not ordinary soldiers. They carried out various kinds of missions. As such, who did not have any minor pain or illnesses. Zihua was so furious that she had a relapse. How could Weida not panic? Zai Sheng narrowed his eyes and immediately gave Weida a kick to increase the distance between them. Until now, Zai Sheng did not expect that he would be deceived by Weida's personal profile. When he thought of it, Weida lied to Zihua fearlessly because of that profile. When Zihua was able to breathe normally, Qiao Nan sat down. Miao Jing then passed the investigation report of Weida to Qiao Nan and let the latter read it. When Qiao Nan opened the official document, she read rapidly and finally gathered a clear understanding of Weida's situation. Qiao Nan's sixth sense was right. Under the circumstances whereby a family already had difficulties filling their own tummies, who would have the time and effort to raise a child for someone else? Even if it was a child bride, it was not that easy. This younger sister and child bride of Weida also had some background. She was an illegitimate child of the village chief and a widow from the same village. The village chief wanted to keep his current position. On the other hand, the widow wanted to remarry after giving birth to this daughter. All of a sudden, it was not appropriate for both the widow and the village chief to raise this child. The widow took her luggage and left for her next family. Without a word, she dumped the child to the village chief, the biological father. At that moment, only Weida's family had one child and it was a son. When Mother Wei gave birth to Weida, her health had been damaged and she could no longer give birth to any child. Fortunately, Mother Wei gave birth to a son on her first pregnancy. As such, the Wei family did not react very strongly to this. They only felt regretful that there were too few people in Weida's generation. Upon thinking, the village chief thought of gifting his daughter to the Wei family since Mother Wei could not have another child. In addition, the Wei family only had a son and no daughter. Wasn't that just nice? Hence, one night, the village chief dumped his daughter at the doorstep of the house of the Wei family. Oddly enough, when the village chief dumped his daughter at the entrance of the house of the Wei family, Father Wei, who happened to be returning home at that time after attending to some matters, saw someone pass by his house, a man. Initially, Father Wei thought that Mother Wei was immoral and cheated on him behind his back. As he walked to the entrance of his house, before he lost his temper, he discovered a baby on his doorsteps. It was a baby girl. After thinking carefully, Father Wei knew that that man was definitely not the adulterer of his wife but the one who left behind this baby girl. Father Wei carried the child home and told Mother Wei about the situation. Thereafter, Father Wei thought harder. Why do I feel that the person who left behind this child resembles the village chief very much? Mother Wei did not have many capabilities but she had the situations of all the families in the village at her fingertips. In that case, the rumors during that period are true. What rumors? A few months ago, someone saw the village chief walk out of the widow's single-story house with his own eyes, and it was in the middle of the night. The widow that just remarried. Father Wei had a little impression of this. Isn't that so? Widow Chen did not leave her house for a long period of time. It was rare that someone finally saw her. A few of them said that Widow Chen had become fat, especially this part of the body. Mother Wei patted on her tummy. Under what circumstances would flesh only grow on a woman's tummy and not on other parts of the body? Mother Wei was someone who had given birth before. Of course, she could figure out the situation. Everyone says that Widow Chen had been pregnant and she even gave birth to a child. Chapter 1006 held the wedding banquet but did not collect the marriage certificate. If the person who brought the child here today was the village chief, then the child must be the village chief's and Widow Chen's child. Father Wei was angry. How dare they implicate us after doing such indecent deeds? How can they put the child at our doorway? Are they thinking of implicating us? They are so evil. This won't do. I must reason it out with the village chief. He is inhumane. Wait. Mother Wei stopped Father Wei. It is certainly impossible for us to forget about this. We must reason it out with the village chief. However, we can use another approach. Mother Wei was a scheming person. Perhaps Weida had inherited his craftiness from her. The next day, Mother Wei visited the village chief with all smiles. She said that she wanted to chat with the village chief about the happenings in the village. When the village chief's wife walked away to pour water for her, Mother Wei told the village chief that she knew about the identity of the baby girl. The village chief was in shock that he failed to hide his emotions. His wife came out right then. Mother Wei greeted her with a smile and left. The village chief left his daughter at the doorway of the Wei family as he knew that Mother Wei could no longer conceive another child and they only had a son. It was just nice that he sent his daughter to the Wei family. They would have a son and a daughter. He thought that no one would find out about this. To his surprise, in less than 24 hours, the Wei family found out about his bad deeds and used it to threaten him. The village chief, who was scared out of his wits, had no choice but to meet Mother Wei behind the mountain. No one knew what they talked about. but the conclusion was that the Wei family would help raise the daughter of the village chief. After the child grew up, Wei would marry her. Of course, the Wei family would not help the village chief raise his child for free. As the village chief, he had to help the Wei family in whatever ways that he could. He must help him out in his career. If Wei was successful, the daughter of the village chief would be able to lead a good life. Since the Wei family received help from the village chief, their days got better and they had enough money to raise an unrelated child. Mother Wei treated the girl fairly well. She only had to help out with simple household chores. Although she was not treated like the princess, at least they did not ill-treat her. She always had enough to eat. The Wei family did not starve her or scold her or raise their hands on her because she was adopted. Therefore, the Wei family had a good reputation in the village. Later, when Wei and the young lady grew up, the village chief sent word that he hoped that Wei would marry the young lady as soon as possible. Mother Wei was smart. She knew that the country was recruiting soldiers and the village chief was able to help her son become a soldier. The village chief threatened and enticed them with an offer unless Wei was his son-in-law, he would not help him be recruited. In fact, this was the reason why the village chief urged Wei to marry the young lady. The village chief knew that Mother Wei had him under control as they knew about his secret. As soon as the news that the country was recruiting soldiers, the village chief knew that Mother Wei would definitely come looking for him, threatening him to help Wei to join the army. Since he had no other choice but to help Wei, he must stand to gain from it as well. The Wei family was scheming and calculative. Perhaps the Wei family would be able to strike it rich. If Wei was as scheming as his mother and found out the secrets of some big shots after leaving the village, he would then be able to make endless demands of him and have a promising future ahead of him. The village chief thought of getting his daughter to marry Wei in order to protect his interests. As long as Wei married his younger daughter, even if he could not tell everyone that he was her father, by the time the Wei family was rich, he had his means to make sure that Wei acceded to his demands. Wei was very happy to hear that he had the opportunity to be a soldier. However, when he heard that the prerequisite for becoming a soldier was to marry his sister, Wei became suspicious and asked his parents about it. After learning the circumstances of the matter, Wei told his mother to demand money from the village chief secretly. Everyone in the village knew that the Wei family adopted the young lady and no one knew who her biological parents were. Therefore, if Wei married the young lady, they would not need to go through the same procedure as other people. After demanding money from the village chief, Mother Wei listened to her son and held a 4 to 5 table wedding banquet, hosting the villagers and the village chief and his family. In the village, as long as the couple held a wedding banquet, they were considered married. Wei was well aware of that. He made use of the loopholes to hold a wedding banquet to reassure the village chief and to be confirmed of a place in the army. Furthermore, Wei was not young anymore. He was at an age full of vigor and vitality. The younger daughter of the village chief was pretty and had delicate features. After marrying the lady, Wei was her husband and could be intimate with her. Regardless of his intention to answer to the village chief or to satisfy his own needs, he was intimate with the lady on the night they had the wedding banquet. Wei had to report to the army the next day and there were a lot of procedures to go through. Wei felt that this was the only time that they were intimate and it would not be a big issue. He did not think much about it and only concentrated on planning his future. Wei was indeed scheming. Back then, he did not know Zihua and he never dreamed that he would have a chance to date the daughter of the chief. But he already knew the significance of the marriage certificate. He followed the customs of the countryside to hold a wedding banquet and marry the young lady. However, he never once brought up the need to collect the marriage certificate. The reason why Wei did this was to leave a way out for himself, thinking that there would be a day where he might get to know a better girl. In the end, Wei was lucky and he had planned it well. He met Zihua, who was a silly girl and she was taken in by his lies, falling for his tricks. Since Wei did not collect the marriage certificate with the woman, the Zai family would not be able to find out from his profile that he had a wife in the countryside. Father Wei might like to take advantage of others, but he was timid and not evil-natured. Unlike him, Mother Wei and Wei were truly mother and son. They were equally scheming and ill-natured. Mother Wei was elated when she knew that her son dated the daughter of the chief in the army. Chapter 1007 Too clever for one's own good. When she first heard that Zihua was not young anymore, she did not really like her. However, she accepted her in the end since she was the daughter of the chief. She knew very well why her son called her on the phone. Therefore, after ending the call with her son, Mother Wei began to brainwash her adopted daughter, who was also her daughter-in-law. Mother Wei told the woman that she and Wei did not collect the marriage certificate. According to the law, they were not considered as husband and wife. Wei had a bright future waiting for him. He met a very good lady. Mother Wei hoped that she would not stand in his way. If Wei was successful, the Wei family would be able to lead a good life. Wei was her son as well as Wei's son. If Wei was rich, he would not leave his son in the lurch. Moreover, the lady who was Wei's girlfriend came from a well-to-do family. Unfortunately, she was not young anymore. She might not be able to bear children for Wei. Even if she did, the child might not be a son. In that case, Wei would inherit everything from Wei. In the Wei family, daughters were not allowed to inherit the family property. If she really cared for Wei, she should keep quiet about it and she must not tell others about her relationship with Wei. The lady was raised by the Wei family. She was meek and gentle. Even though she felt sad at Mother Wei's words, she went along with the Wei family regardless of what they said. She had a wedding banquet with Brother Dai. They even invited all the villagers, including the village chief, to the wedding banquet. She was Brother Dai's wife and Wei's mother. Why would a daughter of the chief come into the picture all of a sudden? What used to belong to her was taken away from her and she was seen as an indecent woman who had an illegitimate child. Although she was heartbroken, she had no intention of going against the Wei family. She did not know that she was the daughter of the village chief and that the village chief had been good to the Wei family on account of her. Although she was unwilling to accept such an arrangement and she felt aggrieved, she had no choice but to agree to it in tears. Zihua had never been to Wei's hometown. People from Wei's hometown were unaware of Wei's recent developments. In this way, Wei managed to deceive everyone, including Zai Yawai and Zai Sheng. If they knew that Wei had a wedding banquet in his hometown, was married, and had a son, Wei, they would not waste so much time on him. They would kick him out of the house right away. Wei was way too terrible. He was worse than people who hid the fact that they had a second marriage. Clearly, he had been scheming right from the start. It was his intention not to collect the marriage certificate. This was so that he would have the chance to look for a better spouse once he left the countryside and got to know more people. The ladies in the city were used to living a good life and would certainly refuse to stay in the countryside. The worst scenario was that Wei might be thinking of having a wife in the city and another wife in the countryside. In that case, he could have a wife and a concubine at the same time. Wei was so selfish and shameless. What he intended to do was to ruin the lives of two women. That was why Zihua wished to end him with a gunshot when she learned the truth. She could tell why Wei refused to collect the marriage certificate despite holding a wedding banquet. Once he collected the marriage certificate, there would be a record of his marriage in the national database. By then, one would be able to tell that Wei was married from checking the database. Even if he was single, one would be able to know that he had been through a divorce. A man like him who was full of lies and would do anything in order to achieve his motive would not have true feelings for her. Even if Zihua wanted to deceive herself right now, there was no way that she could continue to play along with Wei. Now that she knew that Wei had a wife in his hometown, she was reminded of all those years where Wei took leave to go back to his hometown at least 2 to 3 times a year. She did not believe that whenever Wei was back in his hometown, he would only chat with his wife on the bed and do nothing else. If this were the case, they would not have Wei. Wei was very good at keeping up with pretenses. He would not stay for long when he was back in his hometown. He would only stay there for a week or so. After returning to the army from his hometown, Wei De would hold Zihua tightly, telling her that he missed her very much while he was away, that he hoped to bring Zihua back to his hometown next time so that he could introduce her to his family, telling them that she was his fiancée. Back then, Zihua was swept away by his honeyed words. But right now, those words were like a sharp knife, piercing Zihua over and over again. After Wei De left the camp and started his business, he would make more trips back to his hometown and he would stay for a longer period of time before coming back. Zihua could not help but have a crazy thought. Perhaps his wife in his hometown might be pregnant with a second child. On one hand, Wei De declared his love for her and said that he wanted to marry her, that he could not do without her. On the other hand, he had a happy time with his wife that he refused to acknowledge. What was worse was that he was so despicable to bring their child to Pingcheng, wanting Zihua to bring up the child and pave a smooth path for him. Whenever she thought of that, Zihua felt that she was going crazy. She could not control herself from turning berserk or stop herself from killing Wei De. After reading through the information, Xiaonan empathized with Zihua and understood her hatred as well as her deep-set thought of ending Wei De's life with her own hands. But the country was governed by law. Everyone was equal in the eyes of the law. Even though Zihua was the daughter of the Zai family, she was no exception. You are courting disaster. Xiaonan returned the information to where it was. Wei De, don't you feel guilty at all? Or perhaps Wei De felt that he had sister Zihua under his thumb and he was not worried that she would discover the truth. Given that he was so ambitious, Wei De indeed needed to use every means to hide the existence of Wei Wei and that woman. The funny thing was that perhaps it was because Wei Wei was a son, or that Wei De was not certain whether sister Zihua would be able to have a child at her age. She might not have a son even if she could, that he cherished Wei Wei very much. Wei De kept very quiet about the woman. But in order for Wei Wei to carry on his family line, he brought him from his hometown to stay with him and he treated him very well. However, this had backfired on him. I can tell from your gaze that you must be thinking that if not for me, no one would be able to expose all your lies, no. As soon as Xiaonan said those words, Wei De stared at her like a ferocious beast. He could not wait to tear her apart. Zai Sheng frowned in anger and punched Wei De hard in his face. Chapter 1008 Untitled. Wei De had made sure that platoon leader Zhang leave the camp. However, he did not know that he had with him a bigger threat, Xiaonan. It was because of her that he was in such a state. Why? Wei De said through gritted teeth. He did not know how Xiaonan could tell that Wei Wei was his son instead of his nephew. Wei De was not a fool and he was conceited. He would not dig his own grave. Mother Wei was very certain that Wei Wei was her grandson. However, it was peculiar that he bore no resemblance to Wei De. This was the reason why Mother Wei dared to suggest to Wei De to bring Wei Wei to Pingcheng and to gain Zihua's favor so that she could help take care of him. Initially, Mother Wei was puzzled why her grandson did not resemble her son. But then Father Wei told her that it was true that Wei Wei did not resemble their son. However, Wei Wei resembled his great-grandfather. He had inherited his looks. Mother Wei felt relieved at his words. Thereafter, Mother Wei would keep staring at her grandson, hoping to see some resemblances to her own son. It was after a long time before she had a happy discovery. Her grandson might not look like her son, but his expression looked similar to Wei De when he smiled. That was why, despite knowing that Zihua was very crucial to Wei De and they should keep Wei Wei's existence a secret, she still made a bold suggestion to her son, telling him to bring Wei Wei to Pingcheng to be with Zihua. Her intention was for Zihua to raise Wei De's nephew, who was, in actual fact, his son, for him. Wei De agreed to it for the same reason. Judging from the looks, nobody would suspect that Wei Wei was not his nephew. The Zai family was also curious to know the answer to Wei De's question. If the Zai family did not have absolute trust in Xiaonan, they would definitely spend time investigating Xiaonan. They wanted to know how Xiaonan managed to find out the secret that nobody would have thought of. Because of this photo. Xiaonan took out one of the photos that Zihua sent to her. All the letters and photos that you sent to Sister Zihua are, in fact, with me. I kept feeling that you wouldn't be so generous as to raise someone else's child. If you were such a good man, the accident with platoon leader Zhang would not have happened. Your way of dealing with things and your selfish nature made me suspect your relationship with Wei Wei. Perhaps I have an unexplainable doubt toward you. I have this feeling that your relationship with Wei Wei is not that simple. Therefore, I tried my best to prove that I am right. After Sister Zihua sent me the photos, I placed them side by side, and on a closer look, I felt that this photo was offensively conspicuous. Do you know the reason? Wei De widened his eyes in surprise. Those photos were indeed sent by him to Zihua. However, they were merely photos of daily life. One could not tell anything from these photos. Otherwise, he would not ask for trouble by sending these photos to Zihua. If so, what did Xiaonan mean when she said that there was something wrong with the photos? Zihua, Xiaonan, and Wei De had seen the photo. However, this was the first time the men in the Zai family saw this photo. The average men might not be able to notice the important clue, but this was not the case for Zai Yayawai and Zai Sheng. Miao Jing, who was clueless, looked at Zai Yayawai, asking him to explain to her. Zai Yayawai glanced at the photo. In this photo, the Wei and Wei De smiles looked similar. The children might not have inherited their parents' features, but it was possible that they had similar expressions. Wei and Wei De had a similar expression in the photo. This was why Xiaonan could tell that they might be related. Miao Jing took a closer look at the photo after Zai Yayawai's explanation. Indeed, their expressions were alike. Miao Jing looked at Xiaonan in awe. Nan, you are so amazing. You have good eyesight. Xiaonan curled the corners of her lips. She did not know how to react to her future mother-in-law's praise. One had to have good eyesight to spot the similarities between Wei and Wei De from the photos. In the future, there would be a popular Chinese game Find Picture whereby it was the exact opposite. One would need to spot the differences to win the game. Fortunately, she did not spend a lot of time on the game and her eyesight had not deteriorated. Xiaonan might not feel thrilled at Miao Jing's praise, but Xiao Dongliang was proud of his daughter. When Xiao Dongliang was in the army, he was known for his good eyesight. He would have the highest score during target shooting. He felt that Xiaonan must have inherited the good genes from him. Miao Jing finally understood the importance of the photo after Zai Yayawai's explanation. Wei De also realized where he went wrong. When he knew that that was the reason why Xiaonan suspected his relationship with Wei De felt as if he had shot himself in the foot. He had spent so much time and effort on Zihua, but in the end, all his efforts had gone down the drain because of his mistake. There was a fishy and slightly sweet taste in Wei De's throat. His face turned deep red, his neck swollen, and blue veins stood out. Wei De was as mad as Zihua, who had almost fainted from anger just now. The evil we bring on ourselves is the hardest to bear. Miao Jing's heart ached for Zihua upon learning she was deceived and toyed with by Wei De. Right now, she felt much better after knowing that Wei De had caused his own downfall. One should not do evil. Otherwise, God would not let them off. Xiaonan agreed with Miao Jing. In fact, he is no longer related to the Zai family. Should he leave now? That's right. Zai Sheng nodded. He made a phone call for the guards at the quad to send Wei De away. Love might concern two people, but breaking up was different from a marriage. One did not need the other party's consent to end the relationship. Wei De was in a panic. It seemed that the Zai family did not intend to hear another word or an explanation from him. They wanted to cut off all contact between him and Zihua. The guards gave Wei De a hostile stare. One of the guards grabbed his arms, covered his mouth, and dragged him out of the house with the help of another guard. The guards threw Wei De out of the house and snorted in disdain. Scum! Beast! He had shamed the soldiers. They would not admit that Wei De used to be part of the army. He was the army's disgrace. After figuring out the relationship between Weida and Wei Wei, Weida and Zihua had nothing more to say to each other. In fact, it was Zihua who had no wish to speak to Weida anymore. Chapter 1009 made a clean break. Before this, the two of them had already been in the cooling-off period. Zihua had been considering whether to persist on or break up with Weida. Now that she knew that Weida had been deceiving her and his nephew was, in fact, his son, there was nothing more to talk about. Given what Weida had done, if they did not break up, everyone, including Zihua, would look down on herself. Weida was not the only man in this world. There was no need for her to waste her entire life on a scumbag like him. It was not worthwhile. Old Master Zai's heart ached for his granddaughter, and at the same time, he was upset with her behavior. She used to be very competitive and behaved like a boy, yet she cried her guts out because of a man. What's there to cry? I am still alive and kicking. If you are as heartbroken as you are now when I pass away, then I have not wasted my time raising you at least. Old Master Zai felt sad. He treated his granddaughter like his princess, but she did not give him such attention or love. Grandpa, Xiao Nan stopped herself from rolling her eyes. Lunar New Year is coming in more than a month. Why do you say such inauspicious words? Old Master Zai sensed that he had said the wrong words. He was not as angry after being lectured by his future granddaughter-in-law. That is because someone angered me, so I spoke incoherently. No matter how angry you are, you should not say that. Xiao Nan had a headache. Since a young age, she was used to being scolded and cursed by her mother. She had no way to rebut her mother. If she did, her mother would scold her even further. However, Xiao Nan never got used to her curses. She disliked saying words that hurt others and oneself. No matter how angry one was, one should not speak of death easily. Perhaps because she had died once that she cherished life and could not tolerate others speaking of dying so casually. Minutes ago, I was so annoyed and furious at Sister Zihua. I was exasperated that she was so foolish when it came to Weida. However, no matter how angry I was, I merely scolded her for desperately in need of a bashing. She could not bring herself to lash out at Weida either, saying words like telling him to die. Nan Nan. Xiao Dongliang did not expect that his younger daughter would have such a huge reaction. Other people might not understand Xiao Nan, but he did. Xiao Dongliang patted Xiao Nan on her shoulder, his heart ached for her. He looked at the Zai family apologetically. Please don't mind. Nan Nan has good intentions. No, not at all. Miaojing was the first person to respond to Xiao Dongliang's words. Miaojing herself felt upset that old Master Zai spoke of death so casually. Nan Nan is right. The Lunar New Year is coming. We should be happy and should not say such inauspicious words. Besides, the most inauspicious person is no longer related to us. Zai Sheng looked at old Master Zai. If he did not make those comments, Nan Nan would not be so agitated. Old Master Zai touched his chin awkwardly. Forget that I have said those words. He was so angry that he was muddle-headed. That was why he made those comments, angering his future granddaughter-in-law. Old Master Zai was from the older generation. Compared to the younger generation, he was even more averse to saying inauspicious words. Moreover, he was already getting on in years and all the more he cherished his time with his family. Under normal circumstances, he would not talk about dying, let alone talk about his own death. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief that the old master was willing to admit that he was wrong. He was the elder. No one expected that he would admit his mistakes in front of his juniors. Zihua, who had been sobbing silently, wiped her tears with her hands forcefully. She stood up in one go and ran toward her intended destination. Hua, what are you up to? Miaojing had a big fright at Zihua's behavior. She hurried to catch up with Zihua. She was worried that her daughter had yet to sort out her thoughts and would do something foolish. To put it bluntly, if Zihua was aggrieved and felt suffocated, Miao Jing would rather her daughter go against the law to hurt Weida than to hurt herself. Zihua sniffed. Mom, don't worry. I won't do anything foolish. I just feel that I have to put aside all the gifts that Weida gave me. The gifts might not be worth much, but I should return them to him. I want to make a clean break. She would not be a fool anymore. She would no longer get back with Weida. Mom, even if Weida is the only man in this world, I would rather stay single all my life, without any children, than to be with him. I have wasted my life on him. Let's just take it that I have given my true love to the wrong person. After saying those harsh words, Zihua realized that breaking up with Weida was not as difficult as how she imagined it to be. It was not that difficult to make a decision. Xiao Nan, who sat by the side, knew too well. The Zai family was too sentimental. Unless the other party disappointed them thoroughly, the Zai family would never be heartless to people that they once liked. Qiu Chenxi's mother, Qi Minlin, was the typical example. After spending years with them, Xiao Nan was certain that her future father-in-law's only true love was her future mother-in-law. It was never Qi Minlin. Her future father-in-law might not have any feelings for Qi Minlin, but he was willing to help Qiu Qin in his career. That was why Qi Minlin was able to lead a good life after marrying Qiu Qin. Xiao Nan was thankful that Weida had gone way overboard and to the extent of being immoral. Otherwise, Zihua might not have made a clean break with Weida. Miao Jing followed right behind her daughter. She was indeed rummaging through the cabinets and drawers to take out her belongings. Zihua was being practical and realistic. Back when Weida was poor, he could not afford to give expensive gifts to Zihua. His gifts were cheap and did not cost a lot. At that time, Zihua was moved that Weida picked the gifts for her personally. It did not matter to her that there was no value in the things that he gave her. Now that Zihua went through her belongings, she could not help but sneer. It was no wonder that Weida did not take her seriously. Whenever he returned to his hometown, he would be husband and wife with his so-called sister. Perhaps to Weida, she was as worthless as the gifts that he gave her. What was ridiculous was that after Weida became a successful businessman and made lots of money with her help, he was still stingy with his gifts to her. Weida was willing to spend lots of money on his parents, but not on Zihua. He would buy new furniture, color television, telephone, and many other household appliances for his parents in the countryside. On one occasion, Weida insisted that Zihua accompanied him to choose birds' nests for his parents. He wanted to buy high-quality birds' nests that were sold at a lower price. In the end, Weida managed to buy the birds' nests that he wanted from the shop of Zihua's friend. Chapter 1010 did not fancy him. On the account of his relationship with Zihua, they had almost sold them to Weida at cost price. Fortunately, as birds' nests were expensive, no matter how filial he was, Weida did not buy too much all at once. He had spent 3,000 yuan to buy a gift hamper with 200 grams of bird's nest. He then sent it to his hometown. Clearly, she was the one who helped Weida earn money. However, Weida spent all of them on Weiwei and his family in his hometown. On the contrary, she had never received any gift that cost more than 200 yuan from Weida. Zihua felt that she was very sorrowful and pitiful in her relationship with Weida. In fact, Weida had been quite obvious in his actions. Why hadn't she seen through him all this while? It was as if a ghost was covering her eyes and she was in self-denial. Zihua's character was more like a man. She disliked wearing dresses since she was young. The first dress of her life was a gift from Weida and she had worn it for him. At the sight of the dress in the closet that she once treated as a treasure, Zihua could not help touching her forehead. Was the word moronic engraved on it? Weida had such intentions. His gifts were inexpensive but could not hide his motive either. After tidying up for some time, she searched out one large box of gifts from Weida. At the sight of these items, Zihua sneered continuously. "Mom, that's all. At the very least, there's nothing else from him in this house anymore." Later, I will get someone to return these things to Wei De. Okay. How could Miao Jing object to this? She could not wait for her daughter to have a clean break with Wei De. As she sized up the items in the box, Miao Jing sighed continuously. These items were not valuable and she would never touch them anyway. It was not a problem if the gifts were inexpensive. Most importantly, it was the thoughts that counted. Hua would not like many of the items in the box at all. Hadn't Wei De been too slipshod in choosing the presents? Hua could tell that Miao Jing's eyes were filled with dissatisfaction. She gave a grim smile. She really could not tell her mother with her own mouth that Wei De's perfunctory behavior was an outcome of her overindulging him. When they first got together, Wei De did spend more effort on buying gifts for her. Although the gifts were not expensive, they would definitely delight Hua. However, as time passed, Wei De's patience began to run out. Wei De continued with the practice of buying her gifts. However, he did not spend that much effort to pick and choose them. During the first time that he did that, Wei De even observed Hua's reaction carefully. If Hua were to feel displeased or unsatisfied, he would certainly change then. The problem was that Hua was very understanding to Wei De during the first time that it happened. She even expressed that she would like whatever Wei De gave her. With Hua's words of assurance, Wei De felt that he had been granted amnesty. He no longer cared about choosing presents for Hua. As long as the price was not too cheap, he would immediately buy anything that he casually grabbed or conveniently cited. Thereafter, he would dump them to Hua. Hua took a deep breath. "Mom, let's go outside. Qiaonan is still waiting for us." "Right, let's go outside. I remember that it's almost the end of the semester, right? Nan did not even come back during National Day. Why would she have time to come back today?" Miao Jing realized that Qiaonan's appearance in the house of the Zai family today was abnormal. Carrying that huge box, Hua forced a smile. Most likely, Qiaonan had guessed my situation and took a leave to come back. This child, Qiaonan cared so much for the Zai family and Hua, this sister-in-law. Of course, Miao Jing was pleased. From Wei De's matter, it was not difficult for Miao Jing to predict that Zai Sheng was the only one who would become extremely successful in the future. When she and Zai Yayawai were no longer around, Hua would need Zai Sheng, the younger brother, to take care of her. If Qiaonan and Hua were close, Miao Jing did not need to worry about whether Hua would lead a good life after she and Zai Yayawai were gone. Hua, Nan is a good child. At the thought of this, Miao Jing persuaded Hua and hoped that her daughter could become closer with her future daughter-in-law. In terms of capability, her daughter could not be compared to her son. In terms of intelligence, she could not be compared to her daughter-in-law. As such, besides her son, her daughter-in-law would definitely have to take care and keep a watch on her daughter, lest the latter continue to suffer from poor eyesight. "Mom, you don't have to tell me. I understand. Nan is a good lady." Hua was very sincere when she said that. Qiaonan had felt that Wei De was odd and was keeping a watch on him. She even found some clues from her and Wei De's photos. Given her feelings toward Wei De, it was completely possible for Wei De to deceive her into marriage. If she really were to marry Wei De and then found out how lousy Wei De was thereafter, her whole life would be ruined then. Without Qiaonan, it was certainly impossible for her to be able to climb out of a huge fire pit like Wei De. In the past, she had even shunned Qiaonan because of Wei De. She watched on when Qiaonan was bullied by others and developed negative opinions of Qiaonan. On the contrary, Qiaonan helped her wholeheartedly in Wei De's matter. At the thought of this, Hua felt so embarrassed that she wanted to slap her own face. "I'm glad that you know." Miao Jing let down her shoulders that she had been holding up stiffly. True enough, as long as Hua left Wei De, she could revert to that intelligent, sensible and understanding Hua in the past. After they came out, Hua placed a huge box of items on the coffee table. "These are all the thrash that Wei De gave me. Zai Sheng, help me get someone to return them. Fine. Zai Sheng did not reject her request. There was a flash in his eyes. Leave it to me to settle this. Will you mind whatever I do with them? Zai Hua sat down sullenly. Don't need to test me. When I say that I have broken up with Wei De, I have really broken up with him. I am not together with him or related to him anymore. I won't bother about how you return the items to Wei De. It's not that I still have feelings toward him. I have been deceived so badly. I can't wait for his life to be in shambles. Wei De's matter was simply the greatest humiliation in her life. Zai Sheng felt more at ease now. He then made a call to get someone to bring away the box of items. When this person arrived at the entrance of Wei De's big company, there was a lively situation. Zai Hua was loyal and had a sense of justice. She was also good-tempered. Hence, she did not lack any buddies. Previously, with that one phone call of Zai Hua, people immediately guided Wei De along in his business. In a short time span of a few days, Wei De transformed from being in an impoverished state to being quite asset-rich. It was not easy to make money. Nevertheless, was it also not easy to become broke? Wei De could still put on a false front in front of Zai Hua, but he could not help giving himself away when he was with Zai Hua's childhood friends. He had thought that everyone was men and that they should understand one another. When they were out for client meetings, Wei De often imitated the television shows and requested for bar girls to keep him company. The seat beside him was never empty.